Africa is the second largest continent after Asia, covering about one-fifth of the total land surface of the Earth. The continent is bounded on the west by the Atlantic Ocean, on the north by the Mediterranean Sea, on the east by the Red Sea, in the Indian Ocean, and on the south by the mingling waters of the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. Africa's total land area is approximately 11,724,000 square miles, and the continent measures about 5,000 miles from north to south and about 4,600 miles from east to west.
Africa contains an enormous wealth of mineral resources, including some of the world's largest reserves of fossil fuels, metallic ores and gems, and precious metals. This richness is matched by a great diversity of biological resources that includes the intensely lush equatorial rainforest of Central Africa and the world-famous populations of wildlife of eastern and southern portions of the continent. Although agriculture still dominates the economies of many African countries, the exploitation of these resources became the most significant economic activity in Africa in the 20th century.
Africa experienced considerable economic development during the 20th century, and while this provided many benefits, it also gave rise to a number of serious problems. The first significant changes occurred under colonial rule in the first half of the century. Wage labor was introduced, transportation and communications were improved, and resources were widely developed in the colonial territories. The legacy of this, however, has been that the export of 2 or 3 major agricultural products or minerals, such as peanuts, petroleum, or copper, has come to provide most of the foreign exchange earnings for nearly all African countries.
In nearly all African countries, a poor economic situation has been aggravated by rapid population growth, which has kept per capita gross domestic product low, or in some cases caused it to decline. Thus, any hope for improving economic conditions in most of Africa rests on 2 factors: population control within individual countries to give their economies the chance to grow, and the organization of groups of states into regional economic blocs in order to create internal markets large enough to sustain growth.
There are some unique challenges for a corporate treasurer in Africa. Unexpected events will always be an issue. For example, in June 2012, the Zambian government banned the use of foreign exchange, including US dollars. It is to force companies to trade in the local currency. A treasurer must always expect the unexpected.
However, a one-size-fits-all approach to treasury will not work in Africa, as banking practices, regulatory regimes, and payment systems can differ from country to country.
Here are some of the more specific issues that will impact the treasurer. First, although the risk of not being able to remit funds from an African country has reduced over time, there may be limited transferability of currencies beyond jurisdiction due to exchange controls. A good understanding of exchange controls is critical for the treasurer. Second, there is a lack of depth or liquidity in currencies and very high currency volatility. Third, extensive central bank reporting is required and central bank approval is often required, particularly if funds have to be remitted outside the country. Next is residency determines the ability to hold account types, and cash pooling may not be allowed. And last, the largely cash-based system has security implications. Example, cash in transit risk.
South Africa, a member of the G20 and BRICS, and has a very sophisticated banking and financial system with deep liquidity in the local current South Africa rand. The local stock exchange is one of the 20 biggest in the world.
Exchange controls continue to be relaxed with banks acting as the authorized dealers and gatekeepers for the South African Reserve Bank. The bank will therefore want to understand the risk management strategy of the corporate so as to ensure exchange control regulations are adherent to any speculative types trading as the required approvals.
Nevertheless, there are many positives that should place Africa as a business destination on the radar for a corporate. There has been a gradual liberalization and relaxation of the regulatory and business regimes, which should help many African countries as they seek to attract investment. African economic growth has performed well compared to the rest of the world. It has an abundance of resources, and its middle class is growing and embracing technology. Furthermore, Africa is the fastest growing region in the world in terms of population. By 2050, more than half of the world's population growth will be from Africa, and 1 in 3 young people in the world will be African. This means more consumers.